Hi, I'm Arnie Skelton, and each week in this podcast series I'm going to offer you my top 10 tips on particular topics or themes that might be of interest to you as a teacher or manager or both. Hi, and welcome to this week's podcast, which I think is going to be quite a short one, and the theme for this podcast is my top 10 top personal qualities. Now, before I go any further, I need to pay a personal acknowledgement to Tony Robbins here. Some of you may have heard of him, read his books like Unlimited Power or Awaken the Giant Within, and he's a really powerful and effective speaker on personal development. And he is the source of these top 10 characteristics. And just in terms of context, when I first heard him talk about these, I thought, goodness, Americans at their worst. Very lovey, huggy, all of that. And I didn't particularly warm to it as a stiff upper lip Brit. But once I'd heard them, I couldn't get them out of my head. And they became really strong anchor points that I thought, I notice other people who I like doing these things, who I appreciate and value. And actually, I think I'm at my best if I emphasize some of these and invest in them. So they have moved from being something I initially rejected into something that I think is really powerful and strong. So thank you, Tony. These are really your ideas that I'm just passing on to those who are listening. So the personal characteristics that I'm going to list are predictably valued by others. They're liked by others. People warm to them. Somebody is probably more attractive in the general sense because of the qualities that are in this list. So here they are, my top 10 personal qualities thanks to Tony Robbins. Tip number 1, show love and warmth. Tip number 2, show appreciation and gratitude. Tip number 3, take and show an interest in things and in people. Tip number 4, have excitement and passion. Tip number 5, be determined. Tip number 6, be flexible. Tip number 7, be confident. Tip number 8, be cheerful. Tip number 9, have vitality and energy. And tip number 10, make a contribution. So quickly through them again. 1, show love and warmth. 2, show appreciation and gratitude. 3, take and show an interest in things and in people. Tip number 4, have excitement and passion. Tip number 5, be determined. Tip number 6, be flexible. Tip number 7, be confident. Tip number 8, be cheerful. Tip number 9, have vitality. And tip number 10, make a contribution. So, let me say a few things about this. If you're at all skeptical about this being a good list, just reverse them. Think of the reverse. So instead of showing love and warmth, imagine you show hate and chilliness and coldness. Instead of showing appreciation and gratitude, imagine you are very unappreciative and never grateful for anything or to anyone. Instead of taking and showing an interest in people and in things, you show no interest. You take no interest in almost anything. Instead of having excitement and passion, you're very dull and insipid and couldn't care less. Instead of being determined, you give in easily. Instead of being flexible, you're rigid. You're stuck in your ways. Instead of being confident, you're very unconfident or possibly overconfident. Instead of being cheerful, you're miserable. Instead of having vitality, you're kind of, boring, dead from the neck up, comatose. And instead of making a contribution, you never put your hand up or in your pocket for anything. You wait for others and rely on them. So those are the reverse, the negative characteristics. I think you'd agree that somebody who has those negative characteristics would not be somebody you'd be naturally attracted to. You'd probably not want to sit with them on the restaurant table. You'd probably not want to be in their team. So it's almost, well, it is independent of technical talent. It's about being the kind of person that others are comfortable with. So, the great thing about this list is that they are all available to each of us. We don't need any skills development. We don't need a massive budget to actually buy into and adopt and then develop these particular competencies. It's up to each of us to be loving and warm, to appreciate and show gratitude, to take and show an interest, to generate excitement about what we do, and be passionate about something that matters to us. It's up to us how determined we are, and we can be very determined. We are, if we wish, we can be very flexible. We can be confident about many things. We can be cheerful. We can look on the bright side. We can generate energy. And we can, if we wish, volunteer for things. We are not dependent on anyone or anything else for us to have that full list if we wish for it. It's up to us whether we go for them or not. So here's something I suggest you do. Write those top 10 down and score each of them 1 to 5, where 1 is I don't do this at all, and 5 is I do this all the time. And when you've done the scoring, have a look at your scores, and my advice would be the lower the score, the more work you have to do to be likeable, attractive, comfortable to other people. So if you feel you're not up to speed on any or most of them, then choose one of them. Chunk it down. Don't go for broke taking them all on. And work on the one that you've chosen, that word, and demonstrate it, deliver it, behave it over the next week, over the next 7 days. Take every opportunity, put it in your mind, put it on your to-do list, and do it. And when you've done that for a week, the chances are it will start to have embedded itself, and you'll see, hopefully, the benefit. Because if you're cheerful, other people are likely to be more cheerful around you. If you're excited and passionate, they're likely to catch that. So you'll see the effect. Don't take my word for it. Give it a shot and see what happens. You probably know the phrase, we get back what we give out. So if we want things that are on this list from others, we should lead off by putting them in the first place ourselves. And then, if you've done one of them over 1 week, think of the next one you want to work on for the following week, but then do both. Do the first week's word and the second week's word, and then the same again for week 3. Now it's 3 words, and that way build up your competence through practice of developing these top 10 qualities. So just to recap them for the last time, tip number 1, have love and warmth. Tip number 2, show appreciation and gratitude. Tip number 3, take and show an interest in things and in people. Tip number 4, have excitement and passion in your life. Tip number 5, be determined. Tip number 6, be flexible. Tip number 7, be confident. Tip number 8, be cheerful. Tip number 9, have vitality. And tip number 10, make a contribution. So, that's it for this week. Please remember that I run a monthly workshop on similar themes such as this, in Salford. So for details or to book, just email me at arnieskelton@etduk.co.uk. So once again, thanks for listening, and bye for now. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe. You will still get the podcast for free, but you will also get an alert to let you know when the next podcast is available. And please recommend the podcast to anyone else you think might like it and benefit from it. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a review and any other comment, because they'll help promote the podcast series on the relevant platform. So, bye for now.